Good evening, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressick, and this is your other host.
Hey, it's Christina Fasonic, and you pointed in the right direction this time. Sometimes you don't know which direction I am, but I guess it's easier when I'm sitting next to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that straightened out for the audience.
Well, I have to admit that I'm a little bit scrambled tonight because we are finally at spring break, and I'm really exhausted and in need of that break. So, will spring be coming to Appalachia? Who knows? Anyway,
Who do we have tonight?
Let's talk about that. So tonight, I am so very happy to have our guest on tonight. Not just because he's awesome, but he's also from Wheeling, West Virginia, where I'm from. Adam Payne is a multimedia storyteller from Wheeling, West Virginia, who blends writing, visual narrative, and performance in his creative work. Raised in the theater, Adam quickly found his voice immersed in the arts. He attended West Virginia University and earned a Master's of Science in Digital Marketing Communications, a Bachelor of Science in Journalism, and a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting. Now, as a young professional, Adam continues art-focused work as he leads YNST, which stands for You're Not Seeing Things Magazine, a grassroots, mission-driven media outlet dedicated to amplifying the undersung creative voices of Appalachia's arts and culture. So let's bring Adam out.
Hey, he sounds like he's doing cool stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Adam.
Cool stuff.
Well,
hey guys.
So, can we shut the door?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, he can shut the door.
I'm gonna shut the
So
door.
there's a dog barking.
Live.
So we met you at the Wheeling Arts and Culture Festival this past
I know.
August. And
Yes.
I knew you were around and your group was doing stuff because obviously I saw YNST everywhere in town, like at the coffee shop, at other places just all over town. And I wanted to find out, hey, wait a minute, these people are doing Appalachia stuff and they haven't called me. What's up with that? So I called you and we ran into each other. So
Yeah.
tell us about this endeavor. I know there's an interesting story like behind how this all came about. And the magazine itself really impressed me because I feel like you were doing things that are beyond what people just assume about Appalachia. So talk to us about that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the kind words. I know it's so funny looking back at that festival that we did back in August because we were brand spanking new. We launched the publication in June of last year. So that was like our second or third ever event. And it has just been nonstop going since then. And yeah, so I am not doing this puppy all by myself. I am the editor-in-chief and the co-founder of this business, but we do have quite a funny story, I think, of how this all came to be. My team and I, we met in college at West Virginia University, and when I was a freshman, I think my second semester freshman year, I joined this club that was called Ed on Campus, which basically was for people that had an interest in magazine type of journalism. It was like a journalism club. And I honestly didn't really have that much interest in magazine journalism. I just knew that I didn't really love the newspaper route. And I was a journalism major. So I was like, let me give this a go. And quickly, I absolutely just fell head over heels with that type of storytelling. And very quickly, it went from a club to the leaders at the time, these college seniors, decided we're going to form our own publication. So that semester, I was in the very first semester that they were creating this magazine that ended up being called Mirage. And it took off so quickly that then it became its own entity. And then every semester after that, we ditched the club and it became a student-run publication. And then in my sophomore year, I loved it so much. I joined the executive team. I think I was team manager first, and then the next year was the creative director, and then just kept working my way up. But as a sophomore, all of the seniors that started it left. So then all of the freshmen ended up taking the other executive roles. So the president of the club and the editor-in-chief and the creative director, all of those folks, and myself, who was one grade above them, we all just started working together so quickly and so like easily. We just really, really found our voice together. And then when I was finishing my master's and they were finishing undergrad, we were all graduating at the same time. And we were like,
Oh,
we cannot let this baby go. We really, really just grew it into something that we really loved. And by the time we were finishing, I think they were on their 10th, we were on our 10th publication. And we were on our trip together. We always took a networking trip to New York City, and we were a couple martinis deep legally in Little Italy. And we
won't
just
tell.
said, you know, yeah, we were like, we just can't not do this. So we like sort of right then and there came up with this idea to, as we graduated, start over and make it a real business and make it a real print publication. Because what we were doing before was strictly digital, and we were like, we can do this. So then we just quickly, after graduation, took about 6 months to sort of get all the business end of things and all the sort of ideation under us. But then we just went, and it's just been sailing ever since. It's crazy to, I mean, don't recommend starting a business with 6 of your friends. It's too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? But it has been just a dream because we've been working together for the last 5 years, and now it's like we're 2 or 3 years post grad, and it's just been such a dream. And I am so honored that I get to keep working with my friends. And the name, funny enough, YNST, You're Not Seeing Things, was actually the tagline for our student publication for like 1 minute. It was called Mirage Magazine, You're Not Seeing Things was their sort of tagline. And we stole that and wanted to keep that as a tagline for our new publication, and then quickly realized, you know, this is the title and this is the mission. Like, we really quickly sort of went from just a cool title to like, this is what we're doing. This is going with that mission of, you know, showcasing the arts and culture.
So tell us a little bit about
they're not seeing
about the mission.
Yeah, I think so our mission, like you said so graciously in my bio, is to amplify those sort of unseen creative voices that we have here in Appalachia, specifically in arts and culture, because I think I don't know. I think growing up here as an artist and as someone who deeply treasures the arts, I very quickly found that there was this disconnect, you know, where I'm seeing all of these incredibly talented people around me, but then the way that folks are talking about Appalachia and talking about West Virginia specifically was never that. You know what I mean? That was never the sort of encompassing of the conversation. It was always about the negatives. It was always about the stereotypes that you folks know. I don't even have to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, being here and having that lived experience, you know what people say about Appalachians and West Virginians. And I don't know. I think everyone on my team and I, it's sort of like journalists meets artist, and I think that's why we work so well together, whether it be photography, a little bit of fashion design, and some like digital and painters in the group. I think all of us in our own way sort of we're living this sort of disconnect, and we I don't know, I think it just felt like there was this gap in sort of the media that was here. And I think that is really, as we've been growing and meeting new people and introducing them to the mission, I think a lot of people jump on board quickly because they recognize that same gap. You know what I mean? That there's great storytelling, there's great journalists and independent publications and stuff, but the sort of arts and culture niche was not being hit in this way. So I think developing this vehicle really just kind of came naturally, I think.
Well, and I think for me, the first time I saw your publication, I was like, not only is this like well designed, but the kinds of photography that you're featuring, and you know, I think that in the first issue that I saw, you were covering like fashion in Appalachia, right? And people are like, fashion in Appalachia? I thought y'all just wore plaid shirts. But it's like,
yeah,
you know, there's more. Like, there are people in Appalachia who were very interested in fashion. I was talking to one of my students today about how fashion impacted and continues to impact things like architecture, like the old hotels that had like the second entrance for women that was so wide because of the size of their dresses. The fact that
Oh yeah.
trolleys had to be built low to the ground to accommodate women's dresses. I mean, these are facts we know about design and so on. So fashion is more than just I'm wearing this shirt today, but it
Right.
goes beyond that. And I was really like impressed with that because I thought that's really super fresh, different than what
Yeah,
other people are doing.
I feel like that is sort of the element that a lot of people talk about the most is that we're talking about fashion in a way that I think really is sort of the last thing you think of when you think of Appalachia or West Virginia is fashion, and specifically high fashion. You know what I mean? Like, I think that all the designers we've featured so far, it's really interesting too, because they're not necessarily ripping off these like huge fashion houses either. They're doing it in a very Appalachian way. Funny enough, our creative director Olivia just spoke to a fashion design class at WVU today about sustainability and media and like promoting sustainability. And I didn't realize, but every fashion designer that we have featured thus far, I think we're up to like 5-ish, have all incorporated like sustainability and sort of like upcycling and taking elements from the land and sort of like reimagining that through their fashion. I particularly loved in our last issue, we had a fashion designer that makes from Tennessee that makes all of these dresses out of roadkill, like the most high fashion, gorgeous fur, but done in literally the most ethical way possible, taking an animal literally off the street. Her sister's a veterinarian, and they just partnered together to make these garments. And the one that we have featured in our upcoming issue, he upcycles denim that was going to be thrown away. So I think that even though we're talking about fashion, it still is innately Appalachian, which I think excites me a lot.
Well, and then we know that that's one of the qualities that with those of us who know this place, that using what you have available to you is part of what we do here. I mean, well, I have a hole in my sock, we'll fix it. Or, I need a bag to carry my stuff in. Can I take these other old bags and sew them together, make a new bag? I mean, yeah, you were going to say something.
No, I really like what you guys are about in that, there is a dominant narrative about Appalachia and pushing back against that and kind of helping people to understand who we really are. Like Benjamin talks about the idea of brushing history against the grain. And I think that, you're opening up this place in ways that help people to appreciate, the actualities of it. And also, thinking about culture. One of the things that a lot of our writer friends that we've had on, poets, essayists, fiction writers, talk about this moment, or talk about growing up and working very hard to shed the moment that culture is something that's produced elsewhere.
Yes. I totally, I think that sort of moment and that switch is something that I'm so interested in the big and the small. I found, like, talking to my friends the other day about like how we all deeply loved country music when we were 9 years old, and then went through a period of absolutely resenting it and hating it and thinking it's the worst thing ever, and now suddenly loving like bluegrass and country music again. And that's sort of this invisible switch of like when you start realizing that culture can be happening in your own backyard, I think is like one of the most powerful elements of being Appalachian. And I think also is another sort of unspoken truth that in the same way that like everyone sort of understands the negatives, I think that is another thing that it's like you sort of age and then realize, oh, this is happening here, like literally in my own backyard, if I'm only bold enough to go out the door and see it,
Yeah, no, if I'm only bold enough, and that's one of the things I really like about your magazine is you're doers. You're out there, making something and creating it and bringing it to other people.
Yeah, I don't know. I get a little heady about it sometimes, especially recently. I've been thinking about the magazine not only as like just a piece of media, but sort of like a vehicle to these sort of like cultural elements. I don't know. I had a friend that works at the Ohio County Library. Shout out Ellie McGregor.
Yeah,
And she told me that they're keeping all of the magazines and like archiving them and putting them in their archives. And I was like, I've never thought about what we're doing in that sort of sense of like, what if in 100 years someone's doing a research project about like who Appalachians are, and they go through the archives to sort of like reference what these stories are as sort of like an archival text. You know what I mean? Like this is a historical document of like, this is who they are right now in Appalachia. I think that I don't know, kind of hit me over the head the other day, and I was it makes me sort of approach the work, I think, in with more sanctity a little bit of like sort of valuing what we're doing on a level that I don't think I would have ever thought of 6 months ago, you know?
Well, and I think, I always tell my students this, that it's not enough to understand culture. It's not enough to borrow from other people's culture, but you have to be a maker, a doer. You
Yeah.
have the power to do that, to be part of this cultural moment. And I think that they're so used to just being consumers of culture that they don't believe that they can be creators of that culture. So I really like what you're doing as part of that bigger goal of, what we're all those of us who are really trying to help people understand that Appalachia is complex. It's not homogenous, that there's all different kinds of people that live here and do things and produce
Mhm.
things. And that's really important. I think that that's sort of where we are. Like we've gone, like you said, with country music, we've sort of gone from, oh man, I hate it here, why do I live here, to, wait a minute, I don't, they're talking about us in a negative way, but that's not us. And now instead of responding or reacting to people like JD Vance or whatever, we're
Hmm.
literally making culture ourselves, not as a response to, but culture for culture's sake, because this is who we are,
Yeah.
makers.
Culture in spite of and because of, you know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
there's something about like making something that I talked about I went to this Appalachian Big Ideas Festival, best experience of my life down in Hazard, Kentucky. But there was such talk about like being of a place and talking about creating from your place, and I was like, it's so interesting because I feel like everyone that is sort of in Appalachia is creating work that is very oftentimes about the region or inspired by the region, or it's just sort of a lasting ghost that like never leaves you in your work. Even like the notable artists that I'm thinking of that you go around West Virginia and you see them in every single store, you know, their work is also the landscapes and its nature and it's related to the region. I don't know. I think that's really interesting, the way that it touches everyone in that way.
Yeah, well, why don't you show everybody a copy of YNST so that they can see, what we've seen, since they haven't seen it. Is that the
Yes.
first issue or the last issue?
This is our second issue. We actually just sent the third issue to the printer tomorrow. I said sent, but we are sending it to the printer tomorrow, which is really exciting. But yeah, this was our second issue. I can do like a little walkthrough, but basically the main components of every issue, we got the art gallery where we're showcasing Appalachian artists. This first section is called Visions. They're all playing on the name. You're not seeing things. It's called Visions, and this is all about art and the artists that make it. So our last issue, we had like musician features. So we had these 4 different musician profiles. This is so funny to be like a little model of just these amazing musicians that are sort of on the precipice of blowing up. We called it Appalachia's like next superstars. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then the next section is fashion and photography. So this is the roadkill designer that I was talking about. Like, look how freaking high fashion and amazing these outfits are.
That
And
is
that's made
awesome.
from
Yeah.
possums on the side of the road. And then we feature photography, la la la. And then here's more fashion designers up in Pittsburgh. We really try to encompass as much of the region as possible. I know we're talking about Northern Appalachia today, but I think that, like you said, it is so different in the different areas of Appalachia, and northern Appalachia especially, so different from the rest of Appalachia. But we try as hard as we can to represent as much. So this one in our perspective section, which is more culture, talked about food a lot. So we have all of these like independent food ventures and some amazing food art. These are like paintings of art of food. Appalachian Prison Book Project. Yeah, we have lots of goodies in there, but I'm really excited about our upcoming issue. We have our two main features are actually about social media influencers. And I got to write a feature this time, which last issue I was all editing, no writing, which is no fun. So I wrote our longest feature for this upcoming issue and got to interview this TikToker out of Tennessee named Andy Marie Tillman. And just, she's an actress and a singer that sort of like blew up on accident, like never wanted to be a social media influencer, but now it's her full 9 to 5 job. And I'm really proud of the piece that I wrote, and I just nerded out about theater and like the craft so much with her. And she, I don't know, we got very deep on our 3-hour Zoom call, and she talked about her struggles, like being religious and entering the arts, and so much of her personality, I think I was able to capture in this piece. So I'm excited for that to come out.
Well, here's the big question. How do people get this magazine?
So, great question. So you can pick it up in stores at, I think we're up to 55 vendors across the region, mainly in West Virginia. I think 80% in West Virginia, but we have a couple in Pittsburgh and Kentucky and Tennessee, and a couple in Brooklyn, which is very cool. But so you can pick it up in person, but it's even easier to go on our website, YNSTmagazine.com, and you can buy the individual copies or subscribe to get a year delivered right to your door, which is the preferred method. So,
well, this is a show that features writers like you, and they might be wondering, hey, you looking for writers? Are you looking for writers?
The answer to that is 100% yes. They can also do it on our website, ynstmagazine.com/submissions. It's also in the footer. It's hard to miss. But we take open submissions for basically everything that goes into the magazine. And we have let the sort of open calls honestly dictate what we're talking about. So, for example, like the food issue or the food feature that we did in this last issue, we were like so inspired by the food art that was submitted that we were like, we want to talk about the food scene of West Virginia in general.
Like a down home Jeff Koons.
Yeah, for real. Like we literally have just sort of let the open submissions guide everything that we're doing. And like in this upcoming issue, we had some of our features that were pitched to us. We've had freelance writers submit themselves, and then we are always taking creative writing. So there's always poetry in the back. I wish we had a million pages to do. Like some people send us full like 30-page amazing pieces of work that I'm like, well, we can't publish this, but we can on our website though. So we are always looking for more long form content over there. We have a couple creative fiction and prose and poetry that are exclusive to the website and are just continuing to build that up. So yeah, for this last issue, we had over 300 submissions that we had to sort through, which was incredible problem to have. You know what I mean? Like I was like, whoa, this is a lot to sort through, but the majority was art. So it was very visual, but it's a wonderful, wonderful problem to have. And the rolling submissions are always on our website. And then for each issue, we kind of post an open call, and that's when they blow up more than the daily ones. But
well, fantastic. Excellent. And I think that you'll probably be hearing from some of the people in our audience. So
I hope so.
Thank you very much. Before we sign off tonight, though, we wanted to tell you, everybody, that we will not be live next week because we will be en route to Appalachia Studies Association's annual conference in North Carolina. And we are super excited. And please, please stop by the WANA table. We'll be in the exhibit hall. Damien will be leading a group of writers from our own journal, Appalachian Lit, which will This is not a secret now, but will be available and published during the time of ASA. So be looking for that. And also, I will be doing a presentation, and we know that tons of our members will be out there doing presentations and doing book signings and all kinds of stuff. So stop by and see us at the exhibit table. We would love to see everybody. And thank you again, Adam, for joining us tonight. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me gab.
And we need to actually talk to each other in town, because we're like moving in the same circles, but never like.
I know. We need to get a coffee chat.
Yes, we could do a collab, do a collaboration.
Yes.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you in 2 weeks, unless we see you at ASA.